On today's podcast, we're glad to have James Vang on. James displayed Energized Passion as he spoke of his story and his coaching experiences, and how he uses his platform in powerlifting to give back to his community by encouraging the youth to exercise, creating nutrition guides, and making unique training regimens, and meditation, not to mention his breakdancing as well. Finally, this episode of the Iron Huddle Podcast is sponsored by Torque Strength and Conditioning. Torque Strength and Conditioning is a great place to work out and offers a variety of programs such as Torque CrossFit, Torque Barbell, Torque Fit, personal coaching, and youth and teen development. And we hope you enjoy the podcast.
So did you start as a dancer or a lifter?
Well, I started as a dancer first, or a power lifter first, or lifter first.
Oh.
And then I got into the dancing later.
When did you get into the dancing? How old were you?
I think I was like 18, 19.
Now, were you crashing weddings, or how did this all start?
Yeah, how did it start?
Yeah, kind of.
Is this
like,
running right now? This is pure gold.
I know, right?
We're good.
Right, is this on?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, yeah, we're good? Yeah, so, I mean, I started dancing because, like, me and a whole bunch of friends, right? Like, some Hispanics, other Hmong guys, we just got together and we started dancing for fun. And then I think the first gig that we got was during one of my buddies' quinceañera, or like a 15th birthday party for his sister. So they asked us if we could do like a little performance, and we were all just like, well, I guess. I mean, it's for family, so we could just do it, right? You don't need no hire or nothing. We danced together, we got really close, and then now we're just a crew.
Was this before or after Step Up?
Definitely after.
Okay.
Definitely after.
I wanted to dance after I saw that movie.
Yeah.
So did you guys like get together and choreograph your dances, or you just show up and like just feed off each other's energy?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
One of the things about dancing that's really cool is like freestyle. So like what we do is like at the beginning of the dance, we like to show who we are as a team. So we do like some choreography stuff, some stuff that maybe some dancers have a better connection with, where their moves match well a little bit better. Those guys work together, and then a little bit later on, we just let people do their moves. Whatever they're feeling, we go for that.
So you got some freestyle involved as well?
Yeah, of course. Freestyle is my favorite part, to be honest.
What's your finishing move? Do you have a name for it?
I don't really have a finishing move. I think a lot of it is like your attitude. So it's like, it doesn't matter what move you finish off with, it's how you finish off with.
Yeah, how you walk off with it.
Yeah.
Are you a worm guy? You can see you exiting.
Oh, yeah, dude. I love doing some of that for fun. You know, when people see that, it always like adds like a smile to people's face, like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy's doing something so silly, right? And then when you see the other moves, you're like, oh, he ain't just playing around. Yeah, he ain't just playing around.
So if you're just listening in and think you listen to who's the next best dancer in the country, we're actually talking to the amazingly powerful James LOL Vang.
Yeah.
And so from getting into dancing, how did you find yourself in powerlifting? Did you get beat up by some guys who thrown into a gym by accident?
Oh man, so to be honest, I've been working out for like a very long time. So you know how like if I would have just walked in here, you probably wouldn't have noticed that I work out at all, right? Because I'm kind of small and I'm short.
Besides those beefy
Yeah.
Your back is pretty jacked.
Yeah, well now, you know, it's kind of a little bit more, you can tell a little bit more. But generally, I started when I was younger because I was skinny and I used to get bullied all the time.
Okay.
So I started lifting weights, and then the dance just happened to come along. And then as I got into college, that's where like the powerlifting influence kind of hit me.
So when you started young, were you just doing like, getting just weights, just going through the movements, kind of just building your confidence through the bullying stuff you were going through? Was it more Olympic lifting? Like what were you doing at a young age?
Oh, I mean,
just flexing in the mirror?
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like, everybody starts off, unless you're lucky, but everybody starts off bench pressing.
Oh, yeah.
So like, as a small little kid, you see guys with big arms and big chests at school and stuff, and they push people around. You're just like, well, I want to get that. So I started bench pressing pretty much 3 times a week. Pretty much the same workout every day.
Oh, that's awesome.
You do flat and then incline, decline. I'll do a whole bunch of tricep and bicep stuff, and that's it. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, religiously.
You probably break a pencil like no one else.
I kind of do, actually. I break a lot of stuff, to be honest.
At least you're consistent in your training at that young of an age. I think a lot of kids go in, they do want to work out, they get hurt, they get sore, they get discouraged for one reason or another, so they have the desire to keep going back and finding yourself is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons that kept me going was just the fact that, I kind of hated the way I felt, especially about myself, because it's like you could do something about the way people treat you, and yet I don't, So like as I'm lifting and I think about those things, it kind of helps me push. okay, well, this set's kind of hard, right? You're trying to bench press like 95 pounds, you know, at like about 100 pounds. Yeah. You're trying to bench it and you're like pushing it. And I think back, like, do I rather push through this set, or would I rather go through that again the next day, you know, with people who are always saying, you're so small, you're not good, you're not going to be able to hang out with us because of so-and-so reasons. Well, now that I'm stronger than them, what are you going to say, right? Can't say nothing.
Kids are mean.
Hey, I think that's what builds people, though.
Yeah, for sure. I think anyone who's, I know damn well I can say that, people picking on me, that would give me some fuel to get big and kick some ass. I remember the first fight I ever got in, my dad told me to punch back, but punch him in the throat. That gave me so much confidence knocking him on his face.
Pretty much.
Yeah, kids are mean though. Like, they have no filter.
So then you started getting serious lifting in college, you said, right?
Yes,
How did that formulate? Where'd you go to college, by the way?
So I went to college at the University of Georgia.
Oh, wow.
So that's
You're
all the way down south. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Down south.
You and Bill Goldberg getting after it?
Pretty much, right?
Is it just a spearing seminar when you walk in the gym? It's all you practice, just spearing people?
That's his warm up.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna heighten the system today by spearing everyone.
Tramps and spears.
Pretty much, right? Bam. But I started at the University of Georgia because when I was 19, I got into like this situation, I guess, like where our family kind of broke apart. Okay. So the reason why like I have such a passion for powerlifting or just lifting weights heavy in general is because if it wasn't for lifting heavy weights, I wouldn't have been able to get like a home to continue to go to UGA. You know, so it's like one of those situations where like you're super broke and you're trying to figure out what it is that you want to do in life, but the only thing that you know how to do is what your parents and them have always told you to do, right? Yeah. So for Asian families, it's go to college, get a degree. So my mind was kind of brainwashed to live in that lifestyle. But when our family broke apart, that's where like my brain kind of just went through like a little shattering motion in my head where I'm like, oh, whoa, now that my family's no longer here and the education kind of doesn't really matter at this point. What matters is like, what am I going to eat? Where am I going to live? And powerlifting gave me like a friend who said if I was to train him, he'd let me stay with him. That got me into continue on with college, and then a powerlifting meet happened to happen during that same year. Yeah. And I decided to just go for the hell of it and see what happens, and I ended up winning.
Is that in Georgia?
Yeah, that was in Georgia.
Oh wow, that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
What were you weighing back then? What weight? Do you remember weight class?
Same weight class. Okay. I weighed I think 149 or 150 around that time. Yeah. And again, I didn't care too much about weight class. I just looked at it. I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna enter. You know, who cares about the weight class? Yeah. Right? Because the way they had it set up was just pound for pound. So
there you go.
Wow. I was like, who cares then, right?
Yeah, right.
So had you been training much at that point, or you just because you had a buddy that was you wanted to go see if you could do it yourself?
I never really deadlifted that much during that time period. I squatted and benched. I think I benched all my life. I started squatting a little bit more when you see people squat at school, you know, because all the football players squatted. Yeah. So if you got a big squat or a big bench, a lot of people talked about you. Yeah. But you know, in high school, they didn't deadlift, they just power clean. Yeah. So I didn't know what a deadlift was when I entered. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna learn how to do it and do the best that I can.
Yeah. Good for you.
Right? So I trained, and then I ended up winning the meet. And the president was just like, man, I think you have a chance to winning nationals, man. I think you should join the team. But of course, I wasn't thinking about that at the time. Yeah. It's all about food. Where am I going to be living?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny how life kind of aligns things up for you without even realizing it. Right.
So when you were where did you grow up in Minnesota then? In Georgia, or how was that?
I actually lived in Wisconsin for about like 8 years of my life. Yeah. So Appleton, Wisconsin, and then
that's way too close to Green Bay.
Oh yeah. You know, hey,
come on, man.
That's why, right? All G's, right? Green or yellow or red and black, right? Hey. So then I moved to Georgia, I think when I was around 3rd grade, lived all the way up until about 21, 22. When that little situation with school started getting difficult, then I decided just to move back to Minnesota. Okay. Try to like fix my family, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good for you. It's not easy to make those decisions too, especially that time in your life where a lot of the self plays on ourselves, right? So for you to, and I think in the culture too, it's a lot more family based than a lot of others. So I think being aware of that and wanting to be there, goes a lot farther in life than sometimes you realize.
Exactly.
So when you were at the University of Georgia, were you working out like with the athletic teams and the football team, or they had their own separate gym that you would go to? How did that work?
The powerlifting team was just like a club sport there.
Sure.
So it wasn't like we had like amazing access to everything. So we just trained in the regular rec gym just like everybody else. And we just hope we don't get kicked out.
Yeah.
You know, because back in the day, honestly, until like CrossFit started getting big,
Sure.
When you deadlift or squat, like you only have like one area to squat.
Yeah.
And then you had like one area to deadlift. And then people see you squat or deadlift, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
That was back in the day. Exactly.
So then when you moved back to Minnesota, what kept you in the working out? What kept you competing? Was just that love that you had from the first competition? Do you have friends up here that you were training with already, or how did that come to be for you?
Yeah, so I think when I was 19 and I didn't really have a place to go, and powerlifting came into my life, that pretty much set my whole life all the way up to the way it is right now.
Man, that's awesome.
I have like a certain weird relationship with powerlifting that I think a lot of people might not have. But to a degree, I think once you find something that you're really passionate about, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. It's just like a weird love for it. And I had someone like try to convert me to weightlifting. I'm like, well, it's not about the glory for me. Powerlifting gave me life, gave me purpose. Yeah. So it's difficult for me to just say, I want to be an Olympic weightlifter to win Olympic gold medals. Like for me, that was never the reason to start lifting.
Yeah.
I started lifting because I just love it, and I think powerlifting just happens to be here.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I think if you're a strong individual, it doesn't matter what sport you pick. You could pick strongman or bodybuilding or CrossFit or whatever. Lifting heavy weights, just lifting heavy weights. It just depends on which sport you want to apply. I think that's why I started picking up powerlifting.
I like how you said that. That's something I think a lot of, 5-10 years ago, I feel like weightlifters and powerlifters were like always colliding.
Yeah.
Like CrossFit, everyone hated them. And then strongman, they were just like, those are just big guys.
Yeah.
And now everyone's kind of found a nice, good respect for one another. And you even see a lot of things bleeding training-wise into one another, which is fucking awesome to see. It's great to see.
I mean, I was never a big fan of like that hate stuff because, again, as a small lifter, you can imagine how much hate you get when you bench press way more than a guy that's bigger than you. Like, you're at a commercial gym and you're like repping out 225, and a big old bodybuilder would be like, man, the only reason why you could bench that much is because your arms are short. You got like this little weird arch. I'm like, well, I'm not trying to look good. I'm trying to do better than what you think I can, right?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a big man, so I understand it.
I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to, be this bodybuilder and trying to look cut who just looks good. I'm trying to do things that you can't imagine someone small like me do, which is that reaction that you just got. Exactly. That's what I want.
And that's the best.
That's gonna be
people
awesome.
wrong.
Yeah.
And then for you, I think maybe after you break every powerlifting record in the world, maybe you will be. You never know, right?
Yeah, hey,
because
you never
you're so
know.
loyal to the journey.
Exactly.
That's impressive. I gotta respect that because I'm sure everyone is grabbing you and saying, James, you gotta go to the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding. I'm sure they are.
Well, that's the thing. Like, what if he doesn't love it? Then why?
Exactly.
Why? Yeah, the passion out there.
I've had like many people come up to me and be like, hey, I would train you for free if you become like this MMA fighter on our team, And I'm like, well, the reason why you guys have a lot of respect for my mindset and for what I do is because of powerlifting. If you was to switch that to MMA and then someone starts punching my face, that's gonna feel different from me lifting weights. You know what I mean? Like I can't have a passion for something when that wasn't there to begin with. And I think if I was to switch, I'll have the discipline to train, don't get me wrong. But that it factor that I have for powerlifting just won't be there for like an MMA or for bodybuilding, you know what I mean? If that makes sense.
No, 100%. If the why's not there for you, then the passion, drive, consistency, everything that goes into being a good athlete isn't going to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think for you, like the more impressive thing too, in my eyes at least, is like for my experience, I think writers, maybe even yours, like the weightlifting came coinciding with for us it was football, right? Maybe Nick baseball, but we always lifted, in a team aspect where we were walking in the room with 20 to 30 to 40 guys at a time, just trying to earn the self-respect from each other, beside yourself, but in a team mode, right? You're always reaching those goals, trying to do your 111. But for you, being all alone with no team, you're walking as a one-man team and being focused enough to not get strayed by any BS, and just stay focused. It's got to be pretty rewarding. 8 years later now, and you're chasing some pretty big goals, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I would have to agree. You know, I think I was actually the opposite when I processed that. Because I used to play soccer and cross country. I used to run cross country too, which made me even skinnier. But the one thing that I notice about is it doesn't matter how hard you train. It doesn't matter how much you love something. If you got, let's say, 10 other folks on your team who doesn't love it as much as you, who aren't willing to put in the same work, and you guys can't get to, let's say, a state championships or something, and you know why you guys don't get there, you can't get mad at someone for not loving it as much as you.
Yeah.
You can only make yourself better, but how does that make a better team?
Yeah.
So I reversed that and said, well, what is something that I could do where the only person I could be mad at is myself? And that's where that aspect of lifting weights come into play. Like, if I don't get stronger, that's on me. If that guy continues to bully me, that's on me. The only person that I could change to become better is myself. And that's what attracted me to like lifting weights or powerlifting.
That's awesome. That's incredibly awesome. I hope there are any young kids listening to that.
Yeah.
We're quoting the shit out of that.
I love that.
That was awesome.
The ownership thing,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people won't take that ownership to do something about it. You know, it's the bully, it's poor me, it's victimizing. Like, no, you're in control. It's unfortunate, but you're in control, just like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone always says I can't do this or can't do that. No, you fucking choose not to.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
It's a choice.
So then with that, you've been competing almost, once a year maybe or so?
I've been competing 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay.
But you know, because with like the quick lifting, it just kind of depends on where the competitions fall. The overall goal that I do want to do with powerlifting, you know, if let's say this lifetime allows it, you know, to win a world championships. Because I think, you know, how many people that ever gets to live in this world can say, hey, I'm a world championship where like 70 something plus countries came to play, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like a big deal for me, but you know, for me, I still feel like that's a short-term goal. But overall, that is one of the things that drives me as well, you know,
Yeah.
just to showcase that, hey, look at where I used to be, look at the kind of person that I was, and see this 15-year-long gym training from like a gym rat who just bench press all the time, right, to a powerlifter who I am now, and look at the size, look at the way that I am, look at the way I approach life, and look where I was able to get.
Yeah.
And if your life is anything similar to mine, or even a little better off, or maybe a little worse somehow, some way, you can still draw energy from someone who was homeless, didn't have a place to stay, who was also looking for some food to eat here and there back in the day, and I made it to where I am now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're a true scrapper. That's awesome. Just fighting the whole way.
Pretty much. I mean, I feel like that's kind of what Hmong people are, though. You know, I think Asian people, or my ethnicity specifically, Hmong people, we are survivors.
Okay.
So you know, when we come into like the USA and we see stuff, it's like we're scared to a degree, but we always adapt and overcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see that from my workplace and everything else. It's very, very true.
And it's almost contagious too. You know, if you hang out with enough people who really love what they do, and you see that discipline, you know, it almost makes you feel like, oh man, am I stepping my game up to a degree? You know, like why is this guy working so hard? Why is he doing all these weird stuff? You know?
So with that, then, like, it's weird to them, but it's natural to you. So how does your family and friends, how do they accept what you're doing? Is it okay? Are you ousted? How is it accepted?
To be honest, it's been a big struggle, like even still today. Like,
Really?
I think, I mean, I just came back from Sweden like a month ago, and I think the first thing my mom asked me was, hey, when are you gonna quit? You know what I mean? So it's not like, you know, for them, it's not like a big deal for them, you know, but I think that's what intrigues me to make it a big deal.
Prove them.
I don't want them to be like, hey, because you powerlift and you do all this strength stuff, you know what I mean? It's a waste of time. Well, here's the thing. I do this all by myself, you know, my family and them. They support you, but they support you from like afar. They're never gonna spend any time, any money, any energy to help you, but they're always like, yeah, do whatever it is that you want. So where's that support, right? That's why, like, if you guys ever see me go out to meets or all these events that I go to, it's always with me or people who already loves what we're doing. You know what I mean? So like individuals like yourself. If we were all to get band together and then let's say just to teach people how to lift and stuff, we already have that love for it, you know, but it's amazing to have someone who has no idea on what you're doing just to come support and say, hey, that's my son, he's doing some great things and I want to be there for him. Like, I don't have that, even though it's not a big deal. I feel like that is one of the goals that I want to accomplish with powerlifting, where when my parents and them sit back, they could be like, wow, I was definitely wrong. Like, look at how far he's taken this, and I never even knew that it was possible, you know?
I think that's a huge thing. I think you have to have a great support system. And I think the way you've done, it sounds like you do, but it's probably not up to where it should be.
Sure.
You know? So it can be, you've definitely turned it into fuel, so to speak, and used it to your advantage, where I think some people then, you hear that with athletes, where they find an easier way out, or maybe not take it to that next level, and that just speaks mountains on athletes like yourself, who they take what they can and turn it into a great situation, and they take it and they work their fucking ass off. It's great.
Yeah, because, you know, now it's not even just about, like, having my parents accept, you know, it's more like, you know, I've gotten to the point where it's like, you know, I'm telling all these minority kids, like, hey, you know, you can literally come from a background just like me, and then look at the things that you accomplish, even though you don't have someone to be there with you all the time. Because if you have the talent, don't let someone else's opinion of you be the reality that you live by. Because I feel like a lot of Asian parents, because they come in here and they're like, oh man, we're poor, we're broke, you know what I mean? We need to find these jobs where they make a lot of money so they can support the family, you know, buy a house, and, you know, they could brag to their families and stuff. But, you know, with anything, when it comes to artistic stuff, weightlifting, or, you know, music, anything that doesn't make mainstream money, like, it gets frowned upon. And maybe a lot of people might not feel like that's a big deal, but if you're an Asian person trying to do something like that, and every single day your love and your passion is being told that it's wrong and it's stupid, and you're never going to get anywhere, and you need to go to college because this is what I would have done if I was you, and if you don't want to be like me, then you got to do this. It's very, how would you say, like, demotivating. And if they had the skills like me to push it to that far, then that's a loss on us. And I don't want that potential to go away. No matter who it is, whatever race you are, if you're good at something and you know you're good at it and people keep telling you you're not, well, I didn't have anybody there with me neither, so let's take this step together, you know, whatever it is. It doesn't even matter if it's powerlifting, you know. Powerlifting is just the way I express myself. No,
and you're right. I think a lot of people get, you know, people who go towards the arts or anything that shows a lot of expression are frowned upon, I think, in most cultures.
Yep.
But I mean, more so, I think America in general. Like, you know, unless you're becoming an art teacher and find a way to make a living, it's fucking hard.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It is. It's really hard, and it sucks because, you know, high school countries all across, or schools all across the country are cutting these programs, music and arts, for kids.
Recess too. Physical activity.
Man, like, which is what we need the most. There has to be balance.
Well, even for people not having all the support in the world and breaking through those barriers, it just takes one. I mean, this is a far stretch, but and I don't think Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, his parents were never on board what he was doing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it just takes one, and you could change the whole culture, your whole area too, whether it's all these kids looking up to you from, you know, St. Paul or Burns, wherever you're living. I mean, just to get all these kids at one public figure, and as big as social media is these days, and they start following what you're doing.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and it's so silly because they see the makeup you had, the similarities. Well, if he can do this, I can start to maybe do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's huge, goes so far. So then with that real quick, you talked about the meet you have and training alone. So when you're squatting, when you're benching, do you go with lifting partners now? Do you have regular, or do you just kind of meet who's ever in the gym, and how does that work for you?
Yeah, that kind of depends. That kind of depends.
On your mood that day?
No. I mean, like, it depends on other individuals, because this kind of goes back to what I said. Like, you know, if you love something a lot, you know what I mean? Yep. You can't expect someone else to love it as much as you and be there for you all the time unless you're, like, paying them, right?
Yeah.
So, like, for me, you know, when we were getting ready for nationals, you know, I had, like, a team that was going with me for nationals. You know, and we ended up having, I think, 3 national champions, myself included, with another individual who came 4th place.
That's a hell of a team.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, it's a small little group from Minnesota going to nationals, and then we upset a lot a lot of people. You know?
All different weight classes?
Yep. A few age difference.
Too, right?
Yep, men and women. So one woman, one another guy.
Yeah. Wow.
And
straight up fucking renegades, man. Awesome.
Right after
So
that.
what'd she do?
Say what?
What'd she do?
Once I do?
No, you can cut that out.
Oh, sorry.
I meant like, when did she do it?
Hey, you know, we'll talk about that later. But we ended up going there, and then right after I made the team, this is where we all split, because some people made a different team where they're getting ready for a different meet, And then at the same time for myself, because I'm getting ready for a different meet, my training cycle becomes a little bit different from the same meet at nationals. And then that is where I got to start doing everything on my own.
Okay.
Where you wrap yourself, you know what I mean? Hopefully you got some people at the gym who can help you put on your bench shirts and stuff like that, and it gets really complicated. But if you really love it and you really want it, then that's just another handicap that you have to overcome.
Okay.
For sure.
You wrap yourself?
I wrap myself. I mean, if there's nobody there to help me put on a bench shirt, I'm just like, yo, can you just tug or hold the shirt here? And I try to
Pull
get
this,
it in
bro.
the
I'm
best
gonna
that I
punch
can.
at you.
You're old school, so you're in a different era. You should have grown up in the 50s or 60s.
Oh, yeah, hey.
You're in a different era. I mean, you think about people going through what you were going through back then. It's pretty darn similar, to be honest. When you think about the stories and what you're going through, and breaking through the culture barrier too, to be accepted is huge.
So why can't we bring that back, huh?
You're always like my torque.
You know what I mean?
I think
Hey, you know what I mean,
there's
though?
definitely like a renaissance or enlightening happening in strength conditioning for sure. I think it's going the right way. There's a lot of things that are wrong with it. I think we can all talk about that. But there's a lot of good shit going on too. So
Always. I think, there's always going to be positive and negatives, you know.
For sure.
I mean, I can't see why we can't bring that old school feel to what we're doing right now, you know. And I feel like maybe that old school feel isn't up to date, but it doesn't mean we can't draw that positive energy and all the stuff that will work for them in current time, you know. I mean, my training style is still very old school, right? But it still works, so why change it?
well, yeah, exactly. Why rewrite the book when
There's
it's
a lot of
already
people
there?
now bringing on, who's that Thompson? Pat from Donnie Thompson always on his social media brings back these old machines or weights that people tell him to throw away or throw aside. He's bringing them back because it works so well for him, and it's a true example. A lot of people bring. You think of the old bodybuilding methods or powerlifting methods or Josh Bryant's who's doing stuff that people used to do. Proven results, and sometimes you don't know any better, and you're just creating stuff like yourself, and it's been around forever and it works.
Well, that's the thing too. What's going to work for me is not going to work for you.
Yeah,
and that's what I think people forget. Like, don't get me wrong. If your gym is structured and have a weightlifting team and you have 30 athletes. Yeah, does everyone need specific personalized programming? Some might, but most of them give a baseline, adjust as you go, depending upon that person's needs and weaknesses. But at the end of the day, you just train to get better, stay consistent, work on your weaknesses, really, and have fucking fun.
Yeah,
right.
Consistency is so huge.
Yeah, consistency is the biggest thing.
and it seems like you have a ton of that. So, what is your split like? Do you have a 4-day workout week? Do you have?
I mean, shoot, if I could work out every day, I mean, I would have it like that. You know?
You got to dance too, right?
Yeah, for sure. I do break dance a bit here and there as well. But I think for training, it just depends on how your life goes. Because, you know, like what you were touching on earlier, I think we need to balance our lives. So, you know, even if I want to train 6-7 times a day, because I know that's what's going to make me stronger, but that doesn't change the fact that I still got bills to pay, you know what I mean? There's also people that I want to go visit, you know, and that's a big part of what makes an individual strong, you know?
Yeah.
So I think if you cut off too many people off from your life and you no longer have a life, that affects your strength as well, you know? So, like, the way I try to do it is, like, balance, like, what is the minimum that I can do right now in terms of training in the gym to get stronger while still maintaining everything else? You know, and, you know, every year brings you different demons, so you got to be able to overcome those demons as they come. So how do I overcome the demons this year? And lately, for training, though, 4 to 5 times a week has been pretty good, and it's been working. So as long as I stay on top of that, you know, I should be fine.
You mentioned just a little bit, but what are your balances outside of the gym? What keeps you kind of, you know, in your mind kind of, you know, sane? So,
you know, for myself, I work out, and then I also break, you know, so breakdancing, I feel like, again, it's just another outlet for me to express myself. You know, when you lift weights, you know, you want to express the fact that, hey, I train really, really freaking hard, and if you know how heavy this weight is, and you know what it takes to get here, then when you see someone like me do it, then you can only appreciate that. You know? Yeah. And breakdancing is the same thing. You know, when you see someone do something that you can't, you could just be like, whoa, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? And I kind of like that because I've been, again, bullied a lot of the time, so a lot of people don't expect great things from someone so small, right? Mm-hmm. So when I can do things that you can't, you know, those are the kind of things that I like. And on top of that, I like to add that or make that philosophy or ideology like a virus to the people that I meet. So I'm very involved with, like, high schools. I go to I do a lot of stuff with the community. You know, last weekend I just came back from Fresno, California, where I'm pretty much teaching people how to squat, bench, and deadlift, you know, in the Hmong community. because the Hmong community, we've only been in the United States for about 43 years, so we're still very new to how the world works, right? And we're getting to the point where health and fitness is like a big issue, where a lot of Hmong people are dying from like liver cancer, from over alcohol consumption, very high rates of obesity, cholesterol, because we used to work the fields all the time. We went from mountain peoples to eating McDonald's every day. Like, how do you expect our life to change if we don't live long enough to see that change? So I dab myself into that field because if you're good at something, something I always like to preach is show me why you're good. If I'm as good as I think that I am when it comes to lifting weights and doing, all the stuff that I do, then why don't I show it to myself that I can do that? And if you could teach it to someone in the community who has no idea what you're talking about, but then they change their lives, they lift weights, they become a little bit healthier, they become a positive aspect to their family, and not end up being like one of those who had diabetes or always in the hospital, a client of, poverty and stuff, then to me, that's what I want. And those are the things that I push on.
Yeah.
I think you should. I think people who have any kind of talent, it's their duty to give back.
Right?
That's like, that old adage, teach a man how to fish, right?
Yeah, man. Like, that's something Bob says all the time. One of the coaches here, he was a world level weightlifter, and he's always like, the sport gave me so much, so I want to give back. Yeah. The fucker won't let me pay him. So it's just one of those things. Like, if there's a problem out there and you have a solution, then that, as a human, that's what you should be doing.
And I love what you said, because a lot of the times I think a lot of people see the problems, but they're not willing to act on it. And I think that's even worse. If you have a talent that could save, let's say, one life, and you choose not to act upon it, even though you're the one that sees the problem and you can see it happen, that's worse than an individual who don't know what they're doing and it's trying to help out.
100%.
At least they're acting on that whim, right?
Yeah.
But if you got a skill and you're not using it, man, you're technically just like a waste, right?
Well, no, yeah, exactly. And I think, I think a lot of people do that. I'm not going to call anyone out or certain situations, but I think it's something that some people may not. They could maybe not see it, but I think that's something that, as society goes, I think sometimes we're very selfish, and I just think it's something. If everyone just try to be nice to someone every day. I know we've talked about this before with one of our coaches. Like, did you open the door for someone today? It could be just small. Like, if you all of a sudden pick something up for a lady who dropped her purse, you just could have made her day better. Or just saying hi to someone who feels like shit. Like, it doesn't have to be this, I'm going to save your life. But it could start with those little things, right?
And what do we know? Everybody goes through different things every single day.
Exactly.
What if just saying hi was just enough to keep an individual from not doing something stupid? So you can't even say that you can't save people's lives just from a small gesture like that.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Because everybody goes through different stuff. So it's good to be aware.
It seems like you're doing that through your actions, right? You're going to these schools in St. Paul, going to Fresno. I mean, that's incredible. So then, looking forward, what are your new goals you want to reach in the weight room outside? Like, what are you trying to attain in your next meet, what are you kind of looking towards?
Well, I think 2019. Something that I've said is like I wanted 2019 to be like a training year for me, because I feel like all the other years, even though I did train, it didn't feel like I was trying to build upon myself strictly versus just trying to do stuff. So like, I guess the way I like to think of it is, instead of trying to squat 650 pounds, why not just go train and get better at squatting? And if that 650 so happens to come because of those actions, then so be it. That's what I mean. Does that make sense?
That's
So it's like a reverse way. And
It's almost like how it should be, really.
yeah,
It's
and,
focusing on the process.
and I feel like especially as we get better, right? We tend to doubt ourselves, or we tend to think about like the things that we do in a different way. And I guess I'm trying to retrace my steps to where I used to be, and allow this to be like a growing for myself as a person. Not just go out there and help people, lose weight, but maybe do a little bit more than just that. Some simple stuff.
Well, that's what I think. When you become an elite athlete, or in any sport, or you're a strong guy, or it doesn't matter what you're doing. But I think the huge thing is we forget when was it the most fun, and it usually comes back to the process. Yeah, PRs are awesome, but the next day you're like itching for the next, rather than just having fun and going through the process. Because then all of a sudden the PRs will come.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's something I myself have had.
I feel like
kind of
I've
moment
lost
like
that same mentality. So
Yeah.
I want to bring that back. And in the next year, if I could just, who cares if I hit PRs or not? I know what I love to do, which is train. And if it so happens that the next meet I hit some better numbers, then so be it. And even if I don't, then all the stuff that didn't work, I need to scratch that and put it in my closet, and then keep all the stuff that works.
Exactly.
And learn
Just
some
an
more.
opportunity.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And with that, I think part of the understanding, some of the biggest hurdles, I think for a lot of us too, are we're always focused on someone else and what they're doing. This person got that number, or this person got that. Whether they got it really short, or they got a really short time, or they it took forever to get there, and you think you should be there just quick or whatever. I think whether it's mature enough or just taking a step back and taking a deep breath and resetting everything like you're saying and just training, believe in yourself, and let the process take its time is a huge hurdle to get over. Whether you're a beginning lifter, even if you're an elite lifter, a lot of times we just get in our heads and we're our own worst enemies at times. So I think for you to even have that mindset at the beginning of the year is huge to know going forward where you want to be.
Well, that's something I just said the other day. We made a cool little post about it, but training is progress, not PRs. So, and I know, I can't quote him, I know Eddie Cohen said every cycle he just looked at getting better. I believe he said he didn't think about numbers. I just want to get better every cycle. That's all he thought about.
Yeah.
Which I think there's a huge merit to that. Rather than focusing on the outcome, focus on how you're going to get there.
Yeah,
And that's
like,
again within your eyes and maybe those around you who know what you're doing versus everyone. Why are you lifting so light today? Why aren't you doing that? You know what I mean?
and that does kind of get to me sometimes, because people see me when I compete and they
expect
man,
you to
why
PR
can you
every
do
time.
this, right? Like,
Yeah.
and they're like, how come you're not at least like deadlifting like maybe 500 or something? I'm like, man, my joints tell me 500 is not a good weight today. So I'm gonna take a step back,
Yeah, man.
It's not like you see me do that all the time. Like it's a long process. Like for me, like it might even take 4 to 5 months, a whole year even sometimes to even imagine myself doing some of those weights, and I think that's been very successful for myself too, I think one of the beautiful things about not having a goal is the fact that it's almost like, when you say, all right, I want to squat 600 pounds at this meet, you set like a ceiling for yourself, and you no longer think about the fun. So how about we just remove the ceiling and just be like, well, who cares about the 600? If it feels good, why not just put 611 on or something like that?
Yeah.
Who cares about the ceiling of 600? So I think when you learn to love something and you become so comfortable with that feeling, you no longer have a ceiling. You just go ahead and remove the ceiling and just enjoy it now. You get the whole open sky. Like, where can you go from here, right?
And with that, like a guy like me who's not used to using Olympic weights, sometimes I love coming in here and not even knowing what I'm putting on the bar, but you just keep going for it. Right? Some days you crush underneath it, some days you get it, and then you ask afterwards what it was.
How much was that? I know, I put it, Oh yeah, there's one time he jumped up like 90 pounds. I'm like, buddy. And he's like, what? Aren't these like 15 pounds? I'm like, they're 15 kilos.
And I honestly did not want to know that day because all I wanted to see how far I could get.
Yeah, right.
I just want to find out. But to me, that's half the fun some days. Forget
Exactly.
it, just do it, right?
Yeah. That was a good.
Yeah.
When you go to meets or like even today, you see people post up like Instagram stuff all the time of people hitting like these crazy numbers, sometimes you might not just be that individual. You have to approach yourself in a different way where you can't hit PRs like every week. You can't hit world record levels every week and then hate yourself because you can't do that. You got to remember everybody's a little different. Everybody's got a different method. You have to find out what makes you a good lifter, not find out what makes you suck.
That's just a vicious cycle to be in.
Yeah, and a lot of people do that though.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
Social media is so big and so negative to a degree.
It is, because then you break, you might get hurt, and you just go through this vicious cycle, especially mentally.
Mental health goes to shit.
Well, man, then you're just not
You're
having
eating
fun.
ice cream at night, you're depressed.
Yeah, man. Eating ice cream, watching love stories, crying, going to bed. I mean, that's just like my Wednesday night now.
Ben and Jerry's where you at?
And then we forget the love for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I always tell a lot of people too, whenever you feel like that, just look at your hands. If you're a real athlete, you look at your hands and you see how beat up and how scratched they are, all the calluses that you build. Those didn't disappear overnight. It took years. You can't just be like, oh, well, I wanted 400. Since I can't get it, I'm going to quit. Look at your hands. What do they tell you?
Name of the podcast right there. Look at your hands.
Look at your hands, man.
I'm putting notes in my phone.
But that makes sense though, right? Because if you are a lifter, or let's just say like, whatever field that you do, your hands cannot lie. Like even if you was to forget and just lose your memory right now, if you put me under a squat rack and I hear someone say squat, you're gonna see me do it even if I don't even know what my name is.
Exactly.
Because my hands and my body remembers what I am. It doesn't change what I think about myself anymore, and we need to get to that level where every time we forget who we are, every time things struggle, not even just lifting, like even with our relationships or like our daily lives and school and career paths, like when things get hard, just look at your hands. If you're really meant to do this, they will let you know. And if you're not, they will let you know.
I fucking love that. Just a zen moment right now in my brain.
Yeah.
Just take this all in for a minute. The great thing about that too is as you continue with the consistency over the years, is you may even change a different way or direction. Look at some of the people that are positive on social media that are even, you know fentanyl?
Fentanyl?
Yeah.
No.
Do you know fentanyl?
Fentanyl.
But what about it?
He's 53 years old, and he shows up here almost every week in squats and benches and deads just as much as we do. Mm-hmm. And to have that, he doesn't do it every week, but I'm saying to have that consistency is like you're talking about the love for the sport, the love for what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think, or even like how Mark Bell's changed his body, he's transformed from a heavier guy to it. So I think as long as the love is there and you're willing to put the work in, I think there's always an outlet for you to continue to get better in that way.
Yeah, and honestly, it doesn't even have to be love. I just feel like when it comes to training itself, it should become like an aspect of you versus something that you do. Like when you think about sleeping, we don't all get the amount of sleep that we want all the time, but we always want that. So why can't we look at our bodies the same way? Why can't we want to be faster? Why can't we want to be stronger than the way we are? Why are we satisfied with where we are? We should think about training or just getting better, kind of like the way we think about sleep, kind of like the way we think about food. Because if we don't, then one of those days when something comes along, you could just be like, oh, I don't need to train today. Yeah. You never think like that with food or sleep, right? You never just think like, oh, well, there's something going on, so I'm just going to skip on my night of sleep tonight. Nobody who does that, right? I mean, of course, I know there's sometimes where we get stuck into this thing where we have to stay up and force ourselves to stay up, but generally, we're thinking about when are we going to sleep or when are we going to rest. But we never do that with training. There's always aspects of our lives where it's like, oh, well, I'm on vacation, so it's okay to quit. Or, I'm doing this today, so it's okay for me to stop. I'm never like that. The way I think of it is, oh, that's happening. I need to get my workout in before that happens.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think of it in that way. I need food, I need sleep, I need to work out. So now it's no longer just a love for it. It's almost become like a person.
It's a need. You need it to. It's everyday life. You need it to function.
Yeah.
I know for myself. I went a year and a half ago. Went backpacking in Europe for 2.5 weeks. And I worked out 3 days each week. I kind of just took a little break, just went in, did light stuff. But my friends, none of them work out. They thought I was nuts.
Right.
But I knew if I didn't, I would not enjoy myself.
Right.
That's all I'd be thinking about all day. I would be pissed off, and it's just something I had to do. And that's my reason. But once you find that, I think you're taking care of a lot of mental issues and obesity and a lot of problems.
And I think. When you're involved in it, right? We always talk about how can we make this a living, and I feel like to a degree, it's the reverse. It's not that we do this to make a living. We do this because it makes us alive. And when we start thinking of it like that, you don't need to try to be like a good coach anymore. You don't need to try to tell people how good you are, because that's just who you are now. And you don't even have to. When people see you coach or when people see you lift, it's like an aura that you exert. Like, holy crap! I want to become like him. Or holy crap, this guy's so strong. What made him strong? I want to pick his mind and figure out what makes him great. And when that becomes a thing, now it's like you don't need to make a living off of it anymore. You do it because it makes you feel alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you never know when you're going to have a kind of you never know when you're going to affect someone in a positive way like that.
Yeah.
You just never know. That's something I'm thinking about right now as you talk about that, of coaches I've had in the past, to where they walk in the room, you're just feel awesome to be in their fucking presence, because
Right.
they could say something that day that changes your life.
Right.
Or it's just I think about our coach in college, Sven or Bergie or some of those other coaches who they don't even try doing it. It's just who they are.
And now as you get a little bit older, you become a little bit mature yourself, you understand why they were doing it.
Exactly.
And then you can be like, wow, he was a pretty good coach. Or he was someone that I want to live up to.
Yep.
And I think about that a lot,
Oh, absolutely. A lot of that is just they live life with intent, and every day is a lot of it's just gaining self-respect from themselves. We talk about taking days off, you time away from stuff. But a lot of them are on vacation. if you don't put the work in the morning, you're not going to have that respect for yourself at night, right?
Yep.
Because
So it
I'm
goes
always
with both ends.
going to think back to myself like, hey, if I, like, you know, in Sweden, right, when I messed up on my bench press, I'm always going to think back, wow, you remember during week 8 when I decided to skip that one extra rep with that one extra set, that's the reason why I suck today. You know, and I think back, that's like 8 weeks ago, you know what I mean? And it's not even that I skipped my workout, I just skipped one rep, you know, and I'm like, wow, what if that is the reason why my bench press sucked, you know, and it makes me feel accountable for myself. And when you are accountable for yourself, I think that is where you begin to enjoy the journey. You begin to see that, you know, even if it's a negative thing or a positive thing, what can you learn from it and how do you improve every single day as a person?
So for you, nutrition-wise, you talked about trying to help a lot of people within your culture and get that fixed and get that on track. But for you personally, like, how are you eating it? Are you a big carb monster? Are you not? Like, what do you do to stay in shape?
He's Asian, man. He loves carbs.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, you take that out of my mouth. I was just gonna say, I mean, look at me, I'm Asian, man. There's got to be rice and noodles in my diet every
morning,
day.
night,
Full nominal mania,
right? You know, sometimes you might even sprinkle rice on the ice cream. You know? Hey, I'm just saying, make the texture taste a little different when it's in your mouth. You know?
No, it's good.
Right? No, but it's quite simple, to be honest, because I feel like I'm a very simple person, so I like to keep things simple, and that's how I become successful. And I think out of, like, let's say just
let me write this down. Simple success.
yeah, if you're a simple person, then you got to understand that simple things tend to work a little bit better.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, when you think about CrossFit, Olympic weightlifting, and strongman, and bodybuilding, there's a lot more that goes into play in all those sports, to me, in my opinion, versus powerlifting. I mean, how simple is powerlifting? It's squat, bench, and deadlift, and what you got that day. You know, Olympic weightlifting, you know, you need to have like that shoulder mobility. You know, CrossFit, you got to be good at all those sports, and then strongman is like the ultimate one where you're like, hey, once you mastered all of that, show me what you got here, right?
Yeah.
But you think about powerlifting, it's so simple, right? You don't have to think about dieting as much unless you're worried about weight, right?
Yeah.
But then again, that only is a small aspect of your training. So when I think of nutrition, this is pretty much all I think about. The days before I go train, eat as much rice and noodles as I can. The days when I get done training, eat as much meat as I can. So it's like I don't have to worry about protein powders anymore because the meat supplements that.
Yep.
And if I'm not in a mode where my body feels beat up all the time, then I know the amount of meat that I'm eating is good. The moment my body starts feeling sore and the weights become a little bit too much for my body to handle, then I think about, if I can't eat any more food, then let's add like a little bit more protein shakes in there. That way I can just keep myself accountable with everything that goes into my body, with how I approach it, and it's just much simpler when you just eat more of it versus, oh, I gotta count how many macros, how many of this I'm taking in, and I'm, constantly focusing on that portion when I could just focus on that one thing, which is the workout, and then how does my body recover from the way that I eat. So it becomes less complicated that way.
Absolutely.
Makes sense?
Yeah, it's simple. Can I ask, so do you do all the carbs, well, basically just rice, before you train?
And noodles, or it doesn't have to be pastas too,
Okay.
I don't, I know, like, that's kind of something funny because I'm Asian, but I mean, I don't discriminate,
When was the last time you had bread?
When's the last time I had? Yesterday, actually.
Oh, okay.
I had toast yesterday. So. Hey, I eat bread too. English muffins. Every now and then, just saying.
American cheese.
Yeah, every now and then.
So do you do that to basically, obviously, just load off your training cycle? So it's more of the intent of, obviously being ready for the workload you're supposed to put on?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've learned from being a cross-country runner, which is kind of funny because I don't feel like it all is too different. Even though a lot of people might be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're a cross-country runner, but it doesn't matter. The training mentality applies. What did we do when we used to run? We used to, before a big competition, we used to carb load, like to the max, right? Like 3 days before, we eat a whole bunch of carbs leading up all the way to the day, so we hit that runner's high, right?
Yep.
When you're thinking about lifting super heavy weights, you're putting your body in such a crazy, like let's say for me, I'm like 150 pounds right now, picking up 600 pounds. That's a lot of, force that I have to generate.
Yeah.
So I think of that as my 3-mile run. I eat a whole bunch of carbs leading up to the day before, and how does my training is affected by that? And I know when I don't get my rice and noodles in, there's a big difference on my big day.
Yeah.
So that's always been like a ritual now because of cross country. eat a whole bunch of carbs before you lift, but during the days that you lift, when your body needs that recovery, then you just swap it. You don't need carbs to rest.
Yeah, you just
eat meat. Right?
Yeah, eat meat for recovery then.
Yeah.
So you're 150 pounds and you deadlift 600?
Right now, yeah. Well, the most I've ever done was 650.
Jesus.
But, you know.
Where do we get that white rice from?
Hey, man, the jungle
Is it the Minute Maid? What kind is it?
What kind of noodles?
Do you buy? You probably buy the big ass bags from like Sam's Club,
Is
right?
it the enriched white rice?
No, you guys
That's
are
not
thinking
rice.
too Americanized. You know,
That's
too
bullshit.
Americanized.
Jasmine rice.
Yeah, right, Jasmine.
Okay, that's what I
You
eat.
gotta get
Alright,
that
that's what I'm
rice with
strong.
that Asian lady on there. You can't understand a word on the bag. When you see that, then you're like,
That's
the
the
rice
shit
I
right
want
there. If you can't read it, buy it.
Yeah, right, exactly, right?
Well, good for you. You have that set up, though. I mean, that's part of the biggest problem I think that we all go through is finding the right nutrition before the workouts and afterwards. Not only how you feel, but eventually what you're looking like too, right?
Yeah,
With the
because I mean,
scale sense.
you know, when you think about like dieting, you know, it's all theory based. You know, you never really truly know how a certain diet is going to affect an individual because every individual is different. So your diet may not apply to this individual. So how about we just get rid of all the dieting in general and just keep it very simple?
That's something
What are
Charles
you
Baldwin
eating
talks
right
Oh, yeah.
now?
Yeah.
And what do you have to do in terms of the way that you eat to make you feel better about your workouts? Because if everything is going smooth, then you're going smooth.
Yeah.
If something is not going smooth, then you know something is wrong, right?
Yeah.
If you're not recovering, it has something to do with your mobility or the way that you take care of yourself or the way that you eat. And if you're already doing as much foam rolling and massaging and chiropractic stuff that I'm doing, then you know it's probably just the nutritional part. And then again, you also have to ask yourself, it's just the recovery that you know it's protein. It's simple. You don't need to worry too much about all the extra complicated stuff. If you know something as simple as just eating more meat is going to fix my problem, why should I think about all these crazy diets?
Yeah.
And your body responds really well to all the rice and noodles and everything.
Yep, and I think that has like thousands of years in the making. You know, my genes is
A lot of
engineered
genetics
to
in
eat
that
rice.
one.
It's processing finally.
And you know that might be something that I talk about too. Like I don't know what it is that I can get away with eating so much more rice compared to like.
And it's unique to you because if he and I tried to eat 400 pounds of
I'm
Yeah, exactly,
fucking
right?
fat. No, my buddy he's Vietnamese and he's a coach, Vin. Dude, he can eat like 500 carbs a day.
Right,
500 grams carbs.
and
I'm
we're
like,
totally okay.
yeah, and he's skinny. I'm like, God, you're a dick. That's not
Give
fair.
us 2 pieces of bread though. I don't know, man. We might start gaining some weight there. You know, if you eat too much bread.
Gluten or
You
something.
know, peanut butter jelly sandwiches gotta go. that bread.
So what's the story behind the ponytail?
Oh,
That thing's
all right. So this kind of the ponytail, the rat tail, right? So one of the reasons why I even have the rat tail is because you guys know how like I do all this lifting stuff and I travel, I help out the community, I go out and do all this stuff with these kids. And when I go back home, sometimes people will say, why are you go out so late? Are you being like a little gangster? You know, because like our culture is kind of like heavily stereotyped because of that. Because you know, when you come to America and you don't know how to speak English, you know, back in the 80s and the 90s, they used to get bullied because you can't speak English and you're the small little Asian kid. So like gang life was really strong in the 80s and the 90s, right? Fast forward to now, it's kind of dying out a little bit. But it doesn't change the fact that my parents and them still see it in that way. So even if I'm, you know, helping out these kids, helping people out, you know, they always think like because I'm going out past dark or something like that, I'm doing some gang violence stuff, you know. And, you know, they might say that as a joke, but when you say that every single day when I come back home and I'm doing these great things, how do you take that? So I'm like, you know what? If you don't call me a gangster, I might as well look like one. I might as well grow this rat tail, the one thing that all Asian parents hate. I might as well get tattoos because
Fun to do bad things.
yeah, right. And now I ask my mom, like, now that I look like a gangster, are you still gonna call me a gangster? And she's flabbergasted because I'm a good person, right? But I look like a gangster. So now you know you can't judge a book by its cover. And my mom's a Christian too, so I quote that verse to her all the time. If I look like a gangster, but I'm a good person, how do you judge me? Don't you follow the same book that you read? You know, I be playing with her sometimes.
That's a whole other podcast.
Oh, that's a whole other podcast,
but,
man.
you know, that's just like a little
Just
fun, like,
yeah, that's a rabbit hole there.
Hand to you, you're very authentic. And
Yeah.
You're true to who you are.
Which is rare today, by the
Very
way.
super this day and age. That's awesome, dude.
well, you just can't be afraid to be yourself, you know. And,
Yeah.
and this is what I always tell people: I'm just who I am, no matter what. What you see is what you get. I ain't trying to do anything outside of what you don't think I'm capable of.
It'd be weird if I hugged you.
Nope.
I love
Hey,
that.
man.
Seriously, no, I'm seriously
totally cool with it. But yeah, another reason why I do like the rat tail though is because, you know, growing up, you know, you watch like Jet Li, right? You guys watch Lethal Weapon 4?
Yes.
You see the Lethal Weapon 4 where Jet Li had his little rat tail.
Yeah. Because he would throw it back after he kicked everyone's ass.
Does that not look cool?
So that's she moved.
Yeah. So, you know, when I think about it, it's so funny how like our culture works. You know, I have a rat tail and I become a gangster, but all the people that we look up to from these Chinese movies got some sort of rat tail.
Yeah.
You know, all these Asian heroes that we look up to, they got some funky hairstyle. But yet when I rock it, you automatically assume that I'm a bad kid or whatever. And I love it when people react like that because, you know, when you just look decent, everybody has this natural feel like, oh, you know, he's a good person. But when you have a rat tail, you get reactions from people. Like some people dig it and some people don't. And the people that you don't, that's kind of how you know what kind of things that you can be comfortable with them around. You know, like, oh, if they're just gonna get pissed off at my hat and my hair, why should I talk to them about how much I love lifting? Why should I hang out with them or ask them to come over to my house and get something to eat? But if you're cool with it, if you hug me and I'm cool with it, you're like, oh yeah, this guy's cool, man. He don't care, right? Does that make sense? So,
No, 100%.
It's like a way of vetting the people who are.
No,
But it kind of sounds like this is your MO, is like breaking the stereotype.
Yeah,
you know
right?
what I mean?
So now it's almost just like, you know, you could choose to believe whatever you want to believe.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change your mind, but it's up to you if you want to associate me with those things or not.
So if people want to become part of the Foot Clan, how do they get a hold of you?
So, they want to be a part. Just join it, man. Right here.
Well, but if they want to, I guess, break dance with you, if they want to just reach, well, how do they? I mean, do you have an Instagram?
Well, I mean, I have an Instagram. It's called the Hmong Powerlifter. You know, everybody. I'm kind of like the first, and I'm like one of the few Asian American athletes to kind of compete at the level that I do. So I try to, you know, that's like a name that's always stuck with me when people see me. So I decided to just use my.
It's the.
Hmong Powerlifter.
Okay.
So
Okay, gotcha.
HMONG and then Powerlifter.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's where I do all my social media stuff. I also have a YouTube as well. Same thing, Hmong Powerlifter on
really?
YouTube.
You vlog and stuff, or?
Yeah, I vlog on some of them. I do some inspirational speeches on there. I do a lot of teaching because, you know, when it's very hard for broke people to pay for your services sometimes. So like, you know, I like to give back, just be like, hey, if 10 broke people keep asking me this one question, why not make a video on it and just give it to them? Because you guys all know it's different when you learn from a YouTube video versus in person. So they can only get so much from a video.
Yeah.
But if you want to know if that little video helped you, could you imagine if you came to see me in person?
Oh,
It'd be a totally different world.
Yeah, it plants a seed, really.
Exactly.
Like, let it blossom. Yeah.
And then it also gets people jump started. You know, I've had like so many of these new like Hmong kids, and honestly just people in general, you know, who see some of the stuff that I do and they just wanted to lift really, really heavy because they never thought a little person could do some of the things that I do. And since they were little themselves, they're just like, why not follow that? And my videos is the beginning of their journey. And if we happen to meet, then we meet. And if we don't, then we don't, you know? But at least I influenced them and I wouldn't even know, right? You don't know exactly who all watches your videos. You only know based off of when you meet people in person, they're like, wow, I've been watching your videos and I can't believe I'm actually meeting you in person. You know? When people say stuff like that to me, it catches me off guard because now I know my followers and views aren't fake. You know, everybody's always trying to get followers and views. You know, all these girls posting up, you know, their booty pictures on Instagram, trying to get all these followers, and yet they hate it when guys comment on their pictures. Well,
That's a double standard.
right? So, you know, I'm kind of the opposite. You know, like when you see me lift, you see me do these things, I'm that person, you know. So like when you see me, it's realistic, it's genuine. You know?
It's awesome.
Yeah, I think that speaks mountains about who you are as a person. I mean, we can speak candidly on this side. Like, we aren't doing this podcast for lots of money.
Right.
We're doing it because we love what we do, and we really want to show the world that there's a lot of good things happening where we're at.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
I feel you on that.
There's this great community here in Minnesota. So, yeah.
Shoot, just recently, I think a couple years ago, like the USAPL Minnesota was like a very small percentage of the overall USA powerlifting group. You know, there's like 20,000 people, I think, this year. And before, we were like in that 5 to 7%. And recently, when we were looking, Minnesota made up like about 20% of
Holy
that
shit,
20,000.
seriously?
So just think about it. The powerlifting world increased so much within the last couple of years, right? And within that time, Minnesota's powerlifting group, percentage-wise, also increased. So what does that say about the Midwest right now? You know,
No, for sure.
We're hungry. We want stuff. You know?
Well, and on the other side, USAW, I believe we're the second largest LWC per capita in the nation.
Yeah,
so I mean, weightlifting's huge here. Our CrossFit community's big.
Yeah, big.
Powerlifting's
Powerlifting
on
is
its
growing.
way up.
Oh
It's
What
my
you were
God.
saying, I think, and
Yeah.
obviously social media has a ton to do with that. It's you get your own gym, man. You get a gym right there, and for the month, honestly.
Yeah.
If you could get a bunch of people that you could reach out to and get them away from all this stuff, that you know what I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah. You know, like even just like for bodybuilding too, right? Charles Griffin is in Minnesota, right?
Oh yeah,
We
yeah.
had him on the podcast.
Yeah,
We
right?
had him on a couple weeks ago.
great.
Yeah.
That's
huge.
Look at how many Midwest people we got like rocking the mic right now when it comes to like strength stuff.
It's the Midwest work ethic too. That's gotta have something
I
to do
think,
with
yeah,
it.
definitely
the boot
like,
collar.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that's definitely there. Anytime I've traveled, people think I'm crazy because of how much we work and everything. It's different being from the Midwest, and we only understand it if you're from here.
Rocky IV training, man, right? You know, we're out
Ever, isn't it?
right, Rocky IV, right? That's what we
Just
are.
getting after it.
Yeah.
Training in the snow, you know what I mean? You see people get in the gym when the snow is still 2-3 feet tall.
Yeah, man.
We get after it.
And he looked his best when he had a beard. Let's be real.
Yeah. See, so we all got like a very similar mindset, you know, when it comes to that. You know?
I think that's what's been unique about even this podcast is having. I think a lot of people are not willing to really open up and share their story at first, or especially in Minnesota, you were trying to bring attention to it. And once we've got a guest on, everyone opens up and able to tell their story that otherwise may not have been told. So it's great to have a guest we've had on, including you.
Yeah,
Thank you, man. Appreciate you guys for even having me on, you know. But
Yeah.
I think that's the beautiful thing about the lifting community in Minnesota, you know, and I feel like just in general. You know, I know there's a lot of people when they have that really young mindset and they get to a certain level and they begin hating on like weaker people or new gym people, you know, especially like the New Year resolutioners, you know.
Yeah.
But technically, we're all like that. You know, we're all just trying to
all-
get better. We're all technically New Year resolutioners ourselves. We just happen to be hella strong at this point in our lives, right?
Yeah.
But we still trying to be stronger.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what kind of pushes and grows like the Midwest right now. You know, like everybody's just hungry. Like we want to get better. We want to be out there. You know, all these sports that we're trying to get into. It just we attract people who all have the same mindset that we do, and that's the beautiful thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thanks for coming out today.
Oh yeah. Thank
Hell
you
yeah,
very
man. We
much.
gotta do it again.
Yeah, sure, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, maybe we can get some breakdancing sessions in, right?
If you weren't beat up, I'm like, hey, we have. You might get a slipper on this wood. We have mats.
Yeah, hey, like I said,
You got the ice and snow.
right? We'll be slipping sliding. Yeah, that's what's up, man. But like I said, I appreciate you guys for having me on.